To the doubters, the naysayers, to everyone who gave me hell and said I could not, that I would not, that I must not, your resistance made me stronger, made me push harder, made me the fighter that I am today.
Adversity. You have no control over it. You are going to face more adversity. It's not an if, it's a when. So if you have no control over that, what's the one thing you do have control over? You control the way that you respond. You are the determiner of if that adversity is going to be what we can ultimately call a win or a weight. Were you allowed to be a weight that just sinks you, leaves you knocked down, never to get back up again? People just say, that's it, they're out for the count, they're never coming back from that one. Or do you find a wing in there somehow? It's just a way to rise to the occasion. You will either fail because of adversity or you will be forged by adversity.
You thought for 1 minute that you broke me. You got me twisted. I am not phenomenally skilled, but phenomenally willed. I will not give up. I will not surrender. I will not quit. And your problem is you're giving up to me. I need effort from you. You walk out of the door, I need you to match whatever effort the enemy is putting up. Whoever your enemy is, match the doggone effort.
Be strong and very courageous. You've got to have inner strength for this fight. It's not for our strength, that inner strength, that when I can't do as I would, I'm going to do as I can, but I'm not going to stop going to the best of my ability.
Why do you keep crying? Why me, God? Why did I get MS? Why did I get cancer? Why did my mama die? Why did I get fired? Do you understand? Listen, you got put through that because what that does, that tension produces greatness. Stop running from it and run through it. Stop telling me what you're going through. The great, they get through it, they go through it. And the harder it is, the better. Stand in the middle of controversy. Stand in the middle of a storm. Stand in the middle of loneliness. Stand in the middle of an attack. Oh my God! I don't care whether you can fight. I care that you can stand.
If you're not careful, you live in a constant state of anxiety, on the edge, worried about stuff. My biggest regret at 55 is all the things I worried about between 25 and 55. 85% of them never happen. But it doesn't matter that it doesn't happen if it steals your joy, if it robs you of your peace, if it stops you from celebrating the moments that God has given you. Because some people can't enjoy where they are, so worry about where they're going. You see, to be anxious is to have anxiety over a threat that has not been executed. Just worried about stuff that hadn't happened. I'm under threat, and life is a threat. It's full of threats.
Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over.
We have 1,000 reasons every day to have anxiety. The psychologist says that anxiety is like a pilot flying a plane, looking at all of the various gauges before him and not understanding that the gauges are incorrect. It makes you think that you're flying lower than you are, that you're closer to destruction than you are, and you're reacting to the gauges as if you were about to crash, never realizing that anxiety breaks your gauges and you cannot trust your own senses. You can't trust your gauges, but you will get there. You may go through some stuff, but you will get there. You may be betrayed, but you will get there. You may even be delayed, but you will get there.
Zig said most people in a fearful situation, they forget everything and run. But there are a small number, the road to life is straight and narrow, a few there be that find it, who face everything and rise. He said, if the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter. And so when you say dream big, that's major. One, there's power in pursuit, because as Jim Rohn said, it's not the accomplishment of the goal that matters. It's what you become in pursuit of the dream in the process. Because when you have a big dream, it will introduce you to a part of yourself that you don't know right now, that you will never discover in your comfort zone. Because in order to achieve that dream, you've got to die to who you are now. I must die daily. You must die to who you are now to give birth to who you ought to become. I believe that all of us have stories of greatness.
Everything starts out good. And as long as it stays good, you don't know what you got. You don't know what you can do. You don't know what you can stand. You can't rely on a fair weather relationship. You don't even know who you married to until all hell breaks. When the lightning is flashing and the thunder is raging and we're downsizing and we got to move into what looks like a closet, you don't know what you got till the storm breaks loose. It is the storm that defines character. It is how we react to a crisis that proves the depths of our relationship. If you just keep up your defense, you may rock a little bit. You may shake a little bit. You may have to buckle up. But you will get through this. But if you forsake the posture of protection and panic up under the threat of assault, then the enemy gets territory that he would never have because you relinquished your position. Discipline requires that you hold your position even when you're under fire. You can't speak peace outwardly if you have turmoil inwardly. If you got peace on the inside, hell can be breaking loose on the outside. And you can speak out what you hold in. The worst storm in the world is not the one on the outside, but when it gets on the inside, you cannot speak what you do not have. A ship never goes down because the water is around it. It doesn't matter how much water is around it. It was designed to sail on top of the water. As long as the storm is on the outside, the ship can sail through anything.
Never say, I don't know what it is that I got. What's most important, commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Commit yourself to do that which is in your heart. You were not born to work for a living, but to live your making. And living your making will make your living. You get paid to work on a job. That's what we get paid for. But your calling is something you're made for. What is it that you would do free? Something that you love it so much, you do it for free, and you do it so well that people will pay you to do it. That's your dream. That's your superpower. And do that, because if it's something that resonates with you, it's something that's in your heart. Where your heart is, there your treasure is also. Remember A.L. Williams said, all you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough. But make sure you do all you can do. We always go all in on something that we love. What's in your heart? Where your heart is, there your treasure is also. In my book, I say, live a heart-centered life.
So as long as peace guards your heart and your mind, your life can go through anything. As long as you don't get so caught up in your swing, in your business, in your dream, in your hope, in your potentials that you drop your guard. Stand right still. Steady yourself. Take control of the situation. No matter what you read, or what you heard, or what they say, or what they do, don't drop your guard. You can make it through anything as long as you don't drop your guard.
Here's another way to succeed by listening. Choose a really successful person and take him or her out to dinner and listen. Ask questions and listen. If a man is poor, he can really help himself by taking a rich person out to dinner and listening. Spend $50, $60, $80, or $100. Go for the full 9 courses. Start with the hors d'oeuvres. Ask questions. The salad takes 15 minutes. Keep the conversation going. The biggest steak in town takes 45 minutes. Keep it rolling. Ask more questions. Pour on the dessert. Stretch the meal about 2 hours. See, if you get someone successful to eat and talk for 2 hours, he or she may drop ideas in your lap that could change your life. Multiply your income by 2, by 3, by 5. But you're right. Poor people don't usually take rich people out to dinner. That's the problem. The man says if he's rich, let him buy his own dinner. I'm not coming up with any money. And besides, if you work where I work, by the time you struggle home, it's late. You've got to have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, and get to bed. You can't spend all that time trying to find a rich man to feed, and this man's behind on his installment payment. Behind. He's a good worker, hard worker, sincere. But remember, you can work hard and be sincere all your life and wind up broke and unhappy. You've got to be better than a good worker. You've got to be a good listener. The third way to learn from others is to observe. Watch what successful people do. Here's why. Success leaves clues. Watch how the man shakes hands. Spend the money and time and the effort. They're all investments, time, effort, and money, but the payoff is so great, it's hard to compare the cost to the reward. First is the money, and it does take some money. I have a great suggestion for the cassettes and the books and the lectures, the seminars, and the videos you need for a constant flow of ideas and inspiration. Set up an educational fund. Take a portion of your income each month and set it aside to invest in all the means of the search for knowledge. Remember, the best money spent is the money spent to cultivate the genius of your own mind and spirit. Make sure you don't spend more for accommodation than you do for education. The money, small price. The promise, unlimited potential. Next is the time. That is a valuable expenditure. I understand that. To ask people for their money, that's one thing, but to ask them for their time, that's a major request. But I don't know any shortcuts to this. It takes time, precious time. The time you spend is that much less time you have to spend. You can get more money, but you can't get more time. However, life has a unique way of rewarding high investment with high return. This major investment you're making now, listening, could be that small fine-tuning you need for major accomplishment. And last, the investment in effort. There is a great deal of difference in casual listening and serious listening. Listening to know, listening to learn, listening that opens up the whole mental and spiritual process is truly an investment in effort. Bringing heavy attention to bear. That takes effort. A mental rifle shot to strike the idea target. That takes a great deal of concentrated effort. However, this effort, high gear mental machinery, is the effort investment that opens the floodgates where ideas can work their magic for you in the marketplace.
I'm going to make a statement. I don't know how it's going to fly in the room. Here I go. Education is not the most important thing in your life. It's not. I spoke at a school one time and I said that the principal of the school came up and had me removed from the stage. I was just trying to help his students. Education is not the most important thing. Do you know how many people I know with education that ain't working? Do you know how many people I know with degrees ain't got no job? Do you know how many people I know with multiple degrees ain't making no money? The single most important thing in your life is your dream. It's your dream. It's what you dream about. It's in your Bible. It says a man without a dream or vision shall perish. It don't mention education in the Bible. The University of Jamaica is not in the Bible. Harvard is not in the Bible. The Bible says a man without a dream or vision shall perish. If you got no dream, if you got no vision, you're sunk, you're done. I'm sorry. I'm just giving you the basics of how to be successful. This is how I got here. 1968, came off school off of a summer vacation. I'm 10 years old. The assignment the teacher had was everybody in the school class, write your name on a piece of paper and what you want to be when you grow up. I wrote on my paper, I want to be on TV. That's what I wrote. That lady said, turn in your paper. She went around the room, called everybody's name up. You had to stand while she read your paper. She read off everybody's name. She saved me for last. She said, little Stevie, come to the front. I'm thinking, okay, this is it. I ain't never had a gold star in school in my life. I've never been recognized for academic achievements in my life. I've never got an award of any kind in my life. Here I come, little Stevie coming to the front. But I was poor. I had to wear my brother's clothes because I didn't have a comfortable beginning. I wasn't weaned. Steve Harvey's coming to the front. I got a belt that's too big, it's tied around me twice. I'm skinny and I'm heading to the front. I walk like, they used to call me Tater Chip in school because I was shaped like a potato chip. And I walked up there and I'm standing in front of class. Now I told you a minute ago I had a severe stuttering problem. I could not talk outside of my house. I stuttered severely. I thought this woman was going to give me a gold star because I figured nobody else in the class had wrote I want to be on TV but me. So mine must be the best answer of all of them. So I'm standing up there and that lady started in on me. She didn't call me up there to give me no gold star. She called me to the front to humiliate, and that lady did. She said, why did you put something like this on your paper? Now, you've called me to the front. You know I have a stutter problem. You know I can't talk. So she started, why did you write this on your paper? Who in your family ever been on TV? Who in this school ever been on TV? Who in this neighborhood has ever been on television? She said, why would you write something like that on your paper? And look at you standing there, you can't even talk. I was crushed. Why would you write that on your paper? You can't even talk. You're a teacher. You're supposed to be shaping and molding my mind. We pay you to educate. Why would you write something like that on your paper? You'll never be on TV. Every Christmas, I send her a flat screen TV.
Jesus in my text tonight is teaching us the kingdom of heaven is lacking. The kingdom of heaven is lack. It's not this, but it's like this. He's using something that you can understand to explain something that is beyond human reasoning. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a master, he says, who called his servants and gave them. Now, I want you to catch this. You have the master and the servant. And if you read that with your Australian mind or your American mind or wherever you came from, if you read it through the lens of that mind in the society in which you have been raised, in which you have been developed, or in which you have been extrapolated, you will miss the power of these words because you've got the master, and one translation says the master and the slave. And the master and the slave are worlds apart. Trust me, those are not the same things at all. Jesus existed in an environment where most of the societies in which he lived during his era were in a caste system. It was not a democracy. A caste system suggests whatever status of life you are born in, you belong there. So if you were born a slave, then you stayed a slave. If you were born a master, you stayed a master. If you were born poor, you stayed poor. If you were born wealthy, you stayed wretched. There was no feeling of responsibility to raise one person up into another status of life. It is a caste system, the haves and the have-nots, the ins and the out, the master and the slave, the rich and the poor, and never the twain shall meet. So the whole notion that this master who owns the slave is getting ready to go on a trip, and he doesn't give it to his children, he doesn't give talents to his heirs, he bypasses his neighbors and gives it to a slave, is shocking. You don't give your master stuff to a slave. That's crazy. That's awesome.
That's mind-boggling. The slave has been gifted with master stuff. He didn't earn it. He didn't work for it. He didn't labor to get it. He has been gifted. God wants you to understand, as far as the master is from the slave, that's how far we are from God.
True leadership is when a leader takes other followers and makes them leaders. That's true leadership. So when your message has to stay consistent, I have a duty. The first thing we must know is our why. Why? Because I am a child of God. Stop right there. My how and my what, all the tangible things that gets me to those places. But when you talk about why the message has to be consistent, because the right people connecting to the right message right timing. And that's where a lot of kids, definitely in today's time, their instant gratification comes from social media, comes from Instagram, comes from all of these different things. But me and you're old enough, none of that didn't exist. Right. So who did we have to lean on? It was a foundation. And so that foundation is what I believe why kids struggle so much these days, not just kids. Because the foundation of what I've always understood is what I've always exercised my whole life. Since I was a junior deacon in the church since 10, right? You ever went to church sometimes, right? And you ain't been in a while. And then you go back, and as soon as you get in there, the first paragraph sounds like the pastor's talking directly to you. What about me? Do he know my business?
Yeah.
But all it is just confirming the disconnect.
Yeah. And he's talking through.
Absolutely.
Right? Through.
Absolutely. Man, look, we have a real duty. And I'm telling you this, like, this is why I'm so inspired to change one life a day. Maybe I change more, but one life a day. Why? Kid called me last night. Papa, I'm really frustrated going through this. I sent him this information. He has cancer with some stuff, dealing with some stuff. He came back. He was like, I never knew that I had the choice to live. I say, absolutely you have the choice. But watch what happens. And I'm going to use the analogy of animals, right? Why is a lion the king of the jungle? He's not the biggest. He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest. The only thing that sets a lion different than an elephant is his mentality. That's it. When he walks up, he must be respected. Period. An elephant weighs 50 times more than this lion. So why wouldn't an elephant look at the lion and say, mentality? If an eagle flies at a certain altitude, if he bumps into another bird up there, it must be another eagle. Because pigeons don't fly at that altitude.
They can.
They can, but they don't. And so that's where we have to really understand what life really is. Life is really being that leader that inspires other followers to become leaders, not follow. The only reason eagles fly alone, this is why eagles don't flock. You rarely see an eagle with other eagles.
They don't want to be affected by the perspective.
By other people's perspective.
My man, when I was 23 and I would like see some of my high school friends for like football during Thanksgiving, and they all looked at me like, oh, you work at your dad's liquor store? My man, the chemicals in my body, I love it. The adversity, the negative is the advantage. People fear losing. And when you're losing from the get, when you start off losing, you don't fear losing, you just convince yourself the game is rigged and you start dwelling. If I can get you to stop dwelling, and if I can get you to stop fearing losing, then you're off to the races. I leave money on the table every day. I can Tony Robbins and Oprah this shit to the fucking end of life. I'm just not interested. I'm interested in doing me, documenting what I'm doing, putting out content, and if you happen to pick up on that, you're pumped, and you want to email me and say, you know, I was this and now I'm that, that's a high that nobody can ever understand, but I don't want to do that full time. I don't care what your point of view is. I went to Mount Ida College, 95% minority kids. I went to the mall 7 times in the first 14 days that I went to Mount Ida College. I got pulled over 4 times. You know why? Because the other 3 kids in the car with me were black. I'm like, unless you live that, you can't understand that. And I didn't live it. I lived it, I was close to it, but I'm still not it. But like, don't sit somewhere where you've never interacted with a culture and judge. You don't know what you're talking about. In the same way in reverse. Like when I'm on shows like this, or when I talk to homies, where I'm talking to the culture, and I'm like, yo, I got friends who have $10 million in the bank, trust fund babies who are more miserable than you. They're like, get the hell out of here. I'm like, you have no empathy. That sounds good.
Right. What
do you think it feels like when you've lost before you started? Because no matter what you accomplish, everybody's gonna be like, your daddy put you on. You suck. Michael Jackson. Like, what work? Like, I know that, like, it feels bad and there's all these things. It's better in life than ever now. Not because we're better as people, but because the internet is decentralizing the world. All this cryptocurrency, Bitcoin stuff, everybody's in the craze. They're not being thoughtful. It's not about Bitcoin. It's about blockchain and what that technology means, which means you and I can sell you my home. One quick transaction on the blockchain, we both trust it, it's good, and none of the banks and all these people get their hands in our business. Right. Like, shit's going down. So go get yours. Like stop telling me you're gonna, or stop telling me like you got held back. If you have a smartphone, and guess what? All of you do. Well, then you have a studio in your pocket. If you're so good, spit your do I have to tell you about all the people that went and did car studio videos and put it on Instagram and are popping? Like, stop bullshitting. Now there's no more excuses. Here's what's gonna happen over the next 100 years, and I'm glad I'm putting it on film and audio right now, because either maybe I'll be alive because technology's changing, or my great-grandkids are gonna be proud of me. We're about to go through the craziest 100 year of human beings. We're gonna take one big step backwards. We're in the beginning stages. I think we're gonna have a 10, 12 year of tension about all this shit. Right? This is not, by the way, this is not going away tomorrow. You have to understand what's gonna happen. Everybody's gonna get called to the mat. And then what people are gonna realize over the next 20, 30 years is like, wait a minute, everybody's flawed on something. Who's perfect? There's not a person in this room that doesn't do something that all the rest of us would judge as a real bad thing. It's just the way it is. So it's gonna take us 40 years to get there. But once we do, people will be like, okay, wait a minute, we need to reset. Like, if everybody's got something, we need to react appropriately to that something. We need to have different conversations. Like the way we treat alcoholism today or depression today, the way we didn't 30 or 40 years ago, right? That scarlet letter is gonna change. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna live totally different lives. We're gonna be far more acceptant of shortcomings over time, because the hypocrisy is gonna be out the bag. Because if I ever think Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or George Bush or Donald Trump has any impact on me, I'm a fucking loser.
It is inherent in the nature of physical existence of life forms that challenges are an essential ingredient of their lifespan here, and part of the way through which they evolve. But when they say they evolve, really means is the one consciousness evolves, awakens into this dimension through the different life forms in different ways. And it awakens only because we are being challenged. And that is quite a relief to realize to be challenged doesn't mean there's something wrong. There's something wrong with my life that shouldn't be. If you believe or act as if this shouldn't be happening, then you get really unhappy. Then the challenges become transformed into unhappiness inside you. If it's not unhappiness, it's resentment. If it's not resentment, it's anger, it's self-pity, it's complaining, it's despondency. So, for the simple reason that you are misunderstanding the very purpose of life and expecting something that your mind has come up with. It should be different. Some people are afraid of not succeeding in whatever they do because they have a their self-image, which is derived from thinking, would suffer. If I fail at something, then my self-image will be injured, and therefore I'm not even going to try. And again, that's to do with deriving your identity from thinking. And even the thought, I have failed, is a lie. I am a failure is an even greater lie. You have not failed, you can simply reinterpret and say, I have learned something here. This is not for me, for example. So, but why believe the lies that your mind produces? So, as you know, many people live with a very hostile mind. But those people their motivation would probably be very great, I would hope, to get out of their minds. But first they need to realize that their problems are self-generated, mind-generated.
You're broke. And until you admit where you are and define where you are and quit playing it cool and try to fool everybody about where you are, you're going to keep losing. Let me be real with you. Now that I've been funny with you, now we're going to get real. Stop bullshitting everybody. You're not fooling anybody. You talk to a real wealthy man, I know what you really got going on. And by the way, your Uncle Larry, the lawyer, making $350,000 a year, that ain't money. That's not money. If you're not at least at multiple seven figures in this world, you are still broke. Trust me. My brother-in-law makes $280,000. He lives in Chino Hills. He can't even afford to buy a damn house right now where he lives because he can't save. Now, if he had these strategies, he probably could do it, right? But do not fool yourself that you got it going or you need to be in a big damn hurry. Time is running out on you. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. The separator between me and you and people that win and lose is what we do with those seconds. And you're too slow. You're too cool. You're too casual. You think too much. You need to get in a hurry. The separator in this room, you're all learning the same things. The separator is going to be who takes massive action quickly. You all learn the same things. I know all you know. Lots of guys know what I know. Why aren't they wealthy? Why don't they have a $40 million jet? Why don't they live oceanfront Laguna Beach? Why don't they have the most unbelievable homes in the world in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? Why don't they retire their parents? Why don't, when their daughter breaks their nose, they go to an urgent care and some doofus snaps it back? I go to a $25,000 surgeon, write a check and don't think about it for my kid. And I'm the guy driving the Chrysler LeBaron, man. I'm the guy whose water was turned off. So listen to me. Look at my hands. You stop playing around. I'm looking around this room. Not all of you are 19 years old. Time's running out on you. It's serious. You got a chance to change your damn life with what you're learning here. And not just your life, the lives of your children and grandchildren forever. The choices I made, the work I put in, the difference I've made, my great-great-grandchildren will know the difference. There'll be a portrait of my grandchildren, me and my wife. These are the people that changed our family tree forever. You need to stop letting the damn world push your family around.
At a time in my life when I needed some new ideas to help change the direction of my life. I wasn't destitute at the time, but I certainly needed some help. I guess we could all use a little help at age 25. Let me take a minute to tell you how it happened. I had gotten off to a great start in life. I was raised in farm country in Idaho, a small community of about 5,000 people, not far from the Snake River, in the southwest corner of the state. A great place to grow up. In fact, my parents still live in this small farm community. My father is 82 years old, my mother 75, and they are still healthy and doing very well, as active now as they have ever been. I'm very proud of them, and they have always been a great example for me. After graduating from high school, I went to 1 year of college, and then I decided I was smart enough, so I quit, which was one of my major mistakes. Among many major mistakes I made in those early days, But I was ambitious and willing to work hard and figured I wouldn't have any trouble getting a job, which turned out to be accurate. So with a head full of dreams and ambitions, I started my first job. About 3 years later, I got married, made lots of promises, worked hard, and a couple of years later started a family. And at age 25, I started taking a new look at my life. My weekly paycheck amounted to the grand total of $57. I was far behind on my promises, behind on my bills, and discouraged. I was far from making the progress I thought I should have made. I was willing to work hard. That was not my problem. But it was clear that it was going to take more than hard work. And I didn't want to wind up at age 60 broke, needing assistance like so many people I saw around me, not in the richest country in the world. So what do you do to change the direction of your life? I thought, well, I should go back to school. 1 year of college doesn't look that good on an application. But now with my family starting, going back to school seemed like a tough decision. I didn't have any money to start my own business. Money was one of my problems. I always had far too much month left over at the end of the money, if you've ever been in that position. I remember one time losing $10 and I was physically ill for 2 days over a $10 bill. Some of my friends tried to be cheerful. They said, look, maybe some poor person who needed it found it. But that was not really helpful. I must admit at that time in my life, benevolence had not yet seized me. I was the person who needed to find $10, not lose 10. So that's where I was at that time in my life, behind on my dreams, and constantly wondering what I could possibly do to change my life for the better. Well, at age 25, good fortune came my way. And many times it's difficult to explain good fortune. Why do unique things happen to you when they do? I don't know. Part of that is a mystery to me. However, my good fortune was meeting a man, a very unique and successful man. His name was Mr. Earl Schoaf. When I met him, I said to myself, I would give anything to be like him. I wonder what it would take. Well, to make a long story short, this very special gentleman took a liking to me, and a few months after I met him, he hired me, and I went to work for him. I spent the next 5 years working for him in several of his businesses, and then, unfortunately, he died. But I did get to spend 5 years with this remarkable man, and the best thing he gave me during that 5 years was not a job. The best thing he gave me was the benefit of his philosophy, the fundamentals of living successfully, how to be wealthy, how to be happy. And sure enough, his ideas worked for me.
Mom and Dad are yelling at each other. Mom's saying things to my father, taking care of us. Pretty painful moment. And the door happens, and I go open the door, and there's this tall guy standing there with these big bags of food. And on the ground beside him, he had this can with uncooked turkey. And he says, your father here? And I said, just one moment. And I sprinted to get my dad, thinking this was going to be the most euphoric moment you could possibly imagine. But God had come by and surprised us. Somebody cared about us, whatever you wanted to frame it. And my father came to the front door begrudgingly, and he saw the man. He got very angry. And he said, we don't take charity. And he went to slam the door. And the man was a very tall guy, and he put his arm or shoulder against it and kind of bounced off of him. And he said, sir, this is not charity. Everybody has tough times. And somebody knows your need. They want you to give these gifts. Please accept this gift. My father got even more tense. He started saying, I don't accept charity. And this time the man put his foot there and bounced off. And then he said to my father, and I thought my father was hit him. He looked at my father and said, he looked at me back and said, don't let your family suffer because of your evil. He was intensely.
Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what's using my life? Heard a guy give a lecture one time that says, we are today what we were when. And he was talking about the fact that we, to a great extent, behave, think, react because of some previous experience that we've had. One of the things that we know about life is that it is always changing. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Sometimes things go real well, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you're happy, and sometimes you're sad. Now that's that thing called life. And when we begin to understand and know that, accepting that reality that we will never ever have things just on an even keel all the time, that you're going to have some ups and you're going to have some downs. But during those down moments, that's where the growth takes place. That's where the work is. See, anybody can feel good when they have their health, their bills are paid, they have happy relationships, the children are acting normal, business is successful. Anybody could be positive then. Anybody can have a larger vision then. Anybody can have faith under those kinds of circumstances. Am I correct? See, but the real challenge of growth, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, comes when you get knocked down. Somebody said that adversity introduces a man to himself or a woman. How you handle it, that's where the growth takes place.
When everything's going out and nothing's going in, it's draining. And that's what happens to Elijah. He's drained. He's tired. He has no friends. He has no fellowship. He's doing the work of God, standing in power and calling down fire from heaven, bless God. Fire, fire, glory to God. The man of God is calling down fire. The man is just tired because often who you are publicly will draw away from who you are privately until you become so much a persona that you cease to be a person. And the person ends up under the juniper tree and he's exhausted and he's worn out and emotionally he's frustrated and it's affecting his perception of his situation, because when you are tired and when you are lonely, you do not perceive your own situation correctly. And he thinks, even I only am the only one left. And glory to God, there's a bunch of preachers in the world who think they're the only one left and the only one right. And they do blogs about the rest of us. Because, bless God, they're the only ones standing for God. And what has happened to them is that they have lost perception of all the miracles that Jesus did in the Bible. The most prominent miracle was the healing of the blind. Because if there were one thing that the enemy could take away from you, it would be your ability to see. Also, you're a seer. And when you're not a sayer, you're a seer. And when you don't see things correctly, your perception that you're the only one standing for God, the only one right, means you're tired and you're burnt out, and the enemy has tricked you into a false perception. God said, I've got 7,000 prophets. You're not the only one. I got 7,000. I can make another one look just like you. That's what my mother used to tell me. She said, I'll beat you to death until God you died. That's a terrible thing to tell a child. And if that wasn't enough, she said, me and your daddy will have another one that look just like you. They won't even know you're gone. I said, Dad, Mama.